This man died in one of the worst accidents in living memory, and today I will tell you his story. William Bley was born in King's Lynn, Norfolk in 1814, to William Bley, a grocer, and Frances Goodwin. As a boy, he attended the grammar school. He then attended the University College, and St. Bartholomew's Hospital provided his early medical training. He completed his studies at Paris, Heidelberg, and Berlin, taking the Berlin degree of MD in 1836. He established himself in a practice in London. In 1859, he was honoured by the appointment of Physician Extraordinary to Queen Victoria. In 1851, William was living at 45 Queen Anne Street, Marylebone, with his sisters Frances and Elizabeth and 3 servants. On Monday, the 28th of January 1861, William was telegraphed by a patient in Guildford. He drove to Waterloo Station, and he left on the Portsmouth Express train at 5 p.m. Tragedy struck as the train ran off the line at Epsom Station, about 5 miles from Waterloo Station. The engine separated, passed along the line, and was not at all concerned in the accident. The tender appeared to have mounted the rails close to the bridge, about 20 yards from Epsom Junction, and sweeping completely the parapet of the bridge. It fell over into the road beneath. Several first and second class carriages left the line and turned over. Altogether, the carriages which left the line were a perfect wreck. Many of the passengers were seriously injured and 1 died. Sadly, the one was William, who remained unidentified until further inquiries. He was eventually identified by the initials in his suit, as his body was so badly crushed. So rest in peace, William. You will be remembered. Elizabeth Joanna Watt was born in Stirling, Scotland on the 24th of July 1888 to Robert Watt and Elizabeth Carmichael. In 1911, she was living in London at the Western Fever Hospital in Fulham, where she was working as a nurse. The hospital was established in 1877, initially for smallpox. It became a fever hospital in 1885. On the 23rd of November 1912, she married Richard Hogan Cataloo. He was from King's Lynn, Norfolk, where his father owned a large clothes shop in the town. They had a daughter, Aileen, in 1913, born in Sevenoaks, Kent. On the 28th of April 1914, Richard joined the Irish Guards. He served until September 1916. He then joined the Royal Naval Air Force. They had a son, Bruce, in 1918, who was born in Croydon, and Richard in 1926. The family settled in the Norfolk village of Stoke Ferry, where they lived in Border House, Retton Road. But in 1944, tragedy struck the family. On the 3rd of April, Elizabeth was found drowned in the River Wizzy. An inquest was held at the Bull Inn public house. Mr. Cataloo said he last saw his wife alive at 11 p.m. on Saturday. She appeared perfectly normal and gave him a summary of her evening out before going to bed. On Sunday morning, the maid, Mary Carter, went to Mrs. Cataloo's bedroom and found she was not there. The bed had been rested on, and different clothes from those worn by Mrs. Cataloo the previous evening had been taken. Mr. Cataloo thought that the only source of worry could have been that her son had been taken to St Andrew's Mental Hospital in Norwich in January. Jack Wilby, toolman of Oxborough Road, Stoke Ferry, said on Monday at 9:45 a.m. he was on the barge boat at the rear of the string of barges, travelling from the Galt Pits, Retton towards Stoke Ferry. About 300 yards on the Stoke Ferry side of Mayload Corner, he saw the body about 4 yards from the bank. He stopped the tug and recovered the body into the boat, recognising it as that of Mrs. Cataloo. P.C. Hines of Stoke Ferry said he went to the spot and could find nothing to show how Mrs. Cataloo entered the water. The coroner gave a verdict of found drowned. Richard never recovered from the loss of his wife. He passed away in 1964 in Stoke Ferry. So rest in peace, Elizabeth. You will be remembered. This is a true story from the Titanic, a story of true love to the bitter end. Ida and Isidore Strauss were first-class passengers who chose to die together on the liner rather than separate. Isidore was the co-owner of Macy's department store and remained aboard the sinking vessel so others could live, while Ida had an opportunity to save herself by entering a lifeboat with other women and children. She made the brave decision to stay with her husband for 40 years. Isidore was offered a place in a lifeboat. An officer reportedly said, "Well, Mr. Strauss, you're an elderly man, and we all know who you are. Of course you can enter the lifeboat with your wife. However, he replied, no, until I see that every woman and child on board the ship is in a lifeboat, I will not enter into a lifeboat myself. Ida then stepped out of the lifeboat and reportedly said, we have lived our whole life together, and if you are going to remain on the boat and die as the boat sinks, I will remain on the boat with you. We will not leave one another after our long and wonderful marriage together. Both Ida and Isidore lost their lives in the sinking. So rest in peace, you will be remembered.